Hello and welcome to episode number 23 of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Liesbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about knitting and all of the other crafts that I do as well. Usually they are fiber related. Today is July 20. It's a lovely day. So thank you so much for joining me. It really means a lot that you take some time out of your day and spend it with me to hear about what I've been up to. Of course, also feel free to share what you are doing. You can do so in the comments below. You can contact me on Ravelry, on Instagram. Well, you could also contact me on Etsy, where I have a store, but don't think that would be the most appropriate place. And I also have an email address specifically for this podcast, so you could also contact me there. The details will probably be in the down bar at this point, and they will also be at the end of the episode. So if you want to contact me about anything after watching the podcast, that's where you can always find my details, and it's also in the description box below this video where I leave my show notes. So I think that's it. I quickly wanted to get back to one of the comments that I had last week about the shawl that I had knit. People were also asking what happened to the project bag that I had made for my aunt. So they thought it was probably given already. Well, it's not, because my grandma and my aunt, they live in the same town, and I already had this party for my aunt planned, and they live quite a bit away from where I live. So I decided to just give both gifts this weekend, actually, when I will get to see them. So here I have, it's filled with the shawl, actually, but it's not about shawl. This is the bag that I made for my aunt. So it's a type of project bag, which you could use it as any kind of purse, I guess, that I've made for my aunt. I've stuffed it with a shawl, so apparently it can hold up to a shawl, but it's really cram-packed, so you wouldn't want to fit in much more, I guess. But it's now finally finished. I believe the last time that I shared it with you, I hadn't finished the lining yet, but at this point, the lining is closed, and yeah, it's all ready to go. So the only thing left for me to do now is to wrap it up and give it to my aunt. So yeah, I hope she's going to be happy with it, but I think she will be. Otherwise, I probably would have made her another gift. So with that out of the way, let me get into the usual content. So this is not something that I did this week, I believe. I'm not really sure when I finished this bag. It may have been this week. I can't remember, honestly. So one quick mention about what I'm wearing. This is an Agnes top. I also sew my own clothes, so there's quite a bit of sewing in this podcast usually. Not this week, however. But this is an Agnes top. It's a pattern by Tilly and the Buttons, and I think I've made 6 of those shirts. So this is the first one I've ever made, and there are plenty of others, and usually they're all in an aquatic marine animal theme, because apparently I love that. So let's get into what I have been up to this week. Well, when I was editing last week's podcast, I was getting all ready to start embroidering. So I don't know how much time I spent on finding this piece of fabric that I embroider on, but it was way more time than I should have spent on it, because it was really right in front of my nose, but unfortunately I didn't see it for the longest time. So I spent a lot of time putting my house upside down, like, where could I have put it? And it was really right in front of my nose all the time. So yeah, that's me. But I shared a little bit more about my aunt who loves the tulips. And I'm going to fold up this book a little bit because I don't want to give away the pattern, although I'm not really sure. So I want to make her this bouquet, but I'm going to change up the colors a little bit. I hope you guys can see this properly now. So I got started, and this is where I'm currently at. So I decided on the size that I wanted for the fabric piece to have. So I think I want to make it a slightly larger bag at some point. And then I charted out the middle of the pattern in the instructions, and then also on this fabric, and that's where I started with what was the middle of the pattern. So here I have well, the majority of the first flower, and the entire bouquet is like 10 flowers, so I still have quite a bit of work to do. Yeah, so on Friday I was all set up and ready to go on the embroidery, and I think I had like put in literally one stitch. And then my boyfriend came home and we went out for dinner, and when I got back I checked my mailbox, and oh my god, I had the most amazing surprise. So this was Friday the 13th. No bad luck day for me. Oh my god, I'm so incredibly happy with the gift that I've received. So a friend of mine, she got wind of the fact that I was having some trouble getting me some ChiaoGoo needles, and she is so incredibly generous. She sent me a set of her ChiaoGoo needles. So they came in this case. I don't think this case usually comes with the set of needles that I have been given, but it's just amazing. So let me open that up for you. So inside there is a set of the ChiaoGoo mini needles. So the mini twist. I should look up the name because there is definitely a proper name for this, but I'm not really sure what it is. So it comes with a set of 5 different sizes needles. So it comes with 5 different needle sizes. So it's from US 000 to US 1.5. You will notice that there's only 3 sets of needles in here. That's because I have been trying out those needles, as you can imagine. Like, if you get those kind of amazing needles, you have to cast on right away. With the small exception that it's very difficult to cast on a project when you're like literally bouncing up and down from happiness through the room and doing your happy dance. Yeah, that was kind of tough to to start knitting at that point. And also I was kind of wondering like which yarn should I use, because I didn't know what kind of yarn I would have to use to try out those needles immediately, but I did. And this friend was also generous enough to add a progress keeper. So she put it on the zipper. And these are miniature teaspoons, so how appropriate. So it's adorable, and if you are watching this, thank you, you know who you are. I'm really over the moon with this project, or with this gift. So thank you. And apart from that, she also included 2 other needles. So this is the ChiaoGoo lace, also in a sock size. I'd say US 1 or 2.25 millimeter, and also the bamboo needles. So I'd say these are like perfectly suitable for knitting socks with, and this may be very exciting to use on a plane, because I believe bamboo needles are less likely to get confiscated when flying. So far I have only tried bringing knitting needles on a plane that were non-metal needles. So I prefer using metal needles for knitting. So if I go away for long enough, I will make sure to have my metal needles somewhere in my suitcase that I can't access, but in my hand luggage. Of course there's going to be knitting. Hell, I'm not going to travel an entire day, which is what usually happens when you travel by plane. You're going to travel for at least a day because you have to get to an airport first, and you have to wait a lot of time at an airport, and you have your flight, which takes some time. Then from your flight, you're probably going to have to either wait for your luggage or for a cab or a bus or whatever you're going to use, or be picked up or something, and travel to your end destination. So usually that's at least a day's worth of traveling, and I'm not going through an entire day of traveling without knitting, with the exception that maybe at some point I might occasionally be more into crochet or some other kind of craft that might be like the thing that I'm working on at that point, but I'm not going through an entire day of travel without my knitting or other crafts. So, yeah, I'm really excited about this gift, as you will probably be able to tell, because I've been rambling about this project or about these needles for quite a bit by now. So, yeah, I was already working on a pair of socks, which if you've watched last episode, but I just had to cast on something new, and I knew that I wanted to try out the 1.5mm needles or the US 000 needles. So I did. And I also decided to use my own hand-dyed yarn for the first time. So as you will remember, probably, maybe if you've been watching this podcast for a while, I've been dyeing some yarn myself. So I bought a lot of bare skeins of Drops Fabel, which is basically the cheapest sock yarn that came in a bare color that I could find. And I purchased I believe 26, but 20 something for sure, skeins of theirs, so that I could dye some yarn for knitting socks at some point. And a lot of them are right here, and the beady-eyed amongst you might already see that this one is missing, and it was like twice the size before, and that's because the Drops Fabel yarn are in 50-gram balls. So I had to skein them up to dye them, but there were actually two that I dyed in this color, and one of them is like this skein hank thing, and the other one is rolled up in a ball as fast as I could last Friday, because I really just wanted to cast on. So and I did, and this is where I've gotten so far. So it's not very much of a sock yet, but it's definitely enough to try out those needles, and I just love the fabric that I'm getting. It's so nice. These stitches are so tiny, and well, not to brag too much, but I'm also quite happy with how the colors turned out. I mean, I was kind of scared this would be a really weird colorway, but I think it's actually a lot of fun the way it turned out. So I haven't got a clue if this is going to bleed or anything, because this is the first time that I use this yarn, and I'm not going to wash my hanks again and again without using them, without getting any more dirt in them, because that just seems to make no sense to me. So yeah, I've got a new pair of vanilla socks on the go, and I really love how they are working up. I had, of course, to modify my usual stitch count a little bit, so I started with I believe 2 more stitches on each side for the toe, and I increased to, I believe, 6 more stitches on each side for the circumference. So they are going to take me a bit longer to knit, of course, because I'm knitting on smaller needles, but I just love the feeling of the fabric. It just feels so smooth, and it also feels so sturdy. It feels like it's going to hold up forever, and that's exactly what I want to achieve with my socks. Like I want to get very durable socks, of course. So yeah, that's it. So new pair of vanilla socks on my new ChiaoGoo needles. And I'm really happy with it. I will probably measure what my gauge is and put it in that down bar here so that you guys can see. I know that I'm a pretty loose knitter, so I usually need to go down to smaller needles. So it might just be that you can knit socks at this is now a 72 stitch foot circumference. Might be something that you can already achieve this kind of gauge with 2mm needles, or maybe even larger needles, but because I'm a very loose knitter, I need very loose or a very small needles to achieve that kind of gauge. And I'm so happy with the ChiaoGoo needles because they finally make it possible, because I do have a set of higher sharps, and I do absolutely love those needles, but I just don't come in these sizes, and I must admit these knit up as a lot of fun as well. So maybe at some point in the future I will do some kind of comparison, but I think I would need a larger set of the ChiaoGoo to properly compare anything. But yeah, so I also had to tell the lady in the shop, my local yarn shop, that I already had these needles, even though she had back ordered them for me. But she completely understood that, and she was very happy, and she was very excited about the needles as well. So yeah, I'm really happy with how good she took that, and now I've just changed my order, and I try to order some larger needle set now to complete the set, because now I know that these are nice to work with. And yes, I don't really need another set of interchangeable needles, but then again I want to. So yeah, they are going to get at my place at some point, but they are in no hurry whatsoever. And yeah, I love working with my hand-dyed yarn as well. So this friend of mine, she said that giving this set of needles that actually belong to her, so they are secondhand, this is not a new set that was given to me, was a part of a random act of kindness. And I believe that many of us tend to forget to be nice to other people sometimes. I'm not stating this in any way about you guys or the community or whatever. That's not what I mean. But I think, at least for me, I could do a little bit more effort to do something nice for some other people. So about a month ago, I think, I had my hair cut, and my hairdresser, she was very enthusiastic about becoming a grandma for the first time. So I believe around now she's expecting her first grandchild. So I asked her whether I could make some socks for the baby, and well, she really liked the idea. So I also cast on a project on my 2.5mm needles, so the US 1.5s. And they are these tiny baby socks, and they are, well, completely finished, except that maybe I will add some kind of cord through them. So yeah, these socks, they are not really a pattern. But unlike my usual socks, I knit them cuff down. So I start here and knit my way down. And I start with a bit of a special part because I start knitting flat first, because cast-ons can be a little bit too tight sometimes, and I want to have this fit over a baby leg. So I don't know exactly when this would be an appropriate size, but I guess somewhere around half a year old or something. And that's what I aimed for, because if the baby is going to get born in summer, it won't need very warm socks right away, but maybe after a few months it will need those, because at this point the temperatures are really between 25 and 30 degrees Celsius. Now we'll put in a down bar what it is in Fahrenheit, because I really don't know, but I think it's around 90 degrees. But read it, because that's more that will be more reliable. So I'm going to get me some ribbon and put those ribbons through here, so then the new mom or dad can fasten the socks around the ankle a little bit, and that way they are less likely to lose the socks, because apparently babies tend to be like amazingly skilled at leaving their socks everywhere. So yeah, that could be kind of annoying for the parents, I guess. So yeah, here. Well, so I'm going to head off to my hairdresser and surprise her with these socks. I think just later today would be nice, but I wanted to show them to you guys first. So yeah, a pair of finished socks. And this yarn that I've used, it's actually a worsted weight yarn, but I've knitted at a tight case because that's what I like to do. And the yarn is called Annell. I'm going to go for Annell. Malmedy, and I have no clue what the colorway number is, because these are leftovers from a project that I knit on about 3 years ago, I think. So I've knit myself a matching set of mittens, a hat and a shawl, and they were all 3 colored, so they had this kind of tealy blue in them, and then they also had white and black. And it's probably somewhere in my Ravelry project notes, but I just don't know from the top of my head. But I had some leftovers, and I used those to make a little gift for someone else, and hopefully she's going to be very happy with that. So yeah, I just wanted to use the needles that I got as a random act of kindness to also do a random act of kindness for somebody else. It's not headed back in the same direction now, but I believe that if everyone just does something nice for some person, then eventually, or for multiple people, of course, don't limit yourself to one person, of course, then it's all going to get back somehow. If we all start do nice things for each other, then everyone in the end will receive nice things, I guess. So yeah, baby socks. And you guys will also know that I was already working on the socks, because I've briefly mentioned them before, but they are finished now. So I have a pair of lacy socks, and I really have little leftovers. So let me get it here. So this is the amount of yarn that I've got left over. So I probably could have made the ribbing like 1 or 2 rows longer, but yeah, I decided this was enough. This is 20 rows of ribbing. Sounded like a nice and round figure. This was also the right place to stop my project, because if I had wanted to knit up one more leaf section here, I would have needed to increase once more, and then the ribbing wouldn't align as nicely with the pattern. So, or I could have increased twice maybe, but then I don't know. So, I don't know. It's okay the way they are now. And I've tried them. I've tried one of them on, the other not yet, because I wanted to show them to you first. But then again, maybe it's better to show the pattern when it's actually worn. So I'm going to pull it over my arm a little bit, and now you guys will see it upside down, because I can't hold my arm in a position where you can actually see the lace, but now they are upside down leaves, and all my legs, they are going to be right side up leaves, I guess. Then again, a lot of leaves actually hang upside down from trees, so who knows, maybe this is the right side up. So yay, they are finally finished, and this is yarn by Lily Pond Yarns, and it's just an amazing, stunning colorway. I love it, and it is very enjoyable to work with this yarn. And I'm really happy that I have some more Lily Pond Yarns right behind me here, which is going to be a cardigan. But for now, with the temperatures, nah, don't really feel like cardigan knitting. I don't even feel like knitting on my summer top. Probably should pick that up again soon, but yeah. So you might think that's a lot already, but that's not even all I have to share with you. So honestly, I'm a little bit overwhelmed already by the number of projects that I've talked about, but it's still not all for today, because I have worked on another project this week, and this is everything to do with my cousin. She is getting married in just over 2 weeks from today, and I got notified about this about a week ago, so a bit late. But she lives quite a bit away from me. She lives in Germany, in fact, so that can be quite a bit further away from me than any of my other relatives who do live in the Netherlands. But they have a son, so she and her soon-to-be husband, they have a little 1-year-old, and I decided it would be nice to knit them a blanket. So with the help of a friend, I decided to pick an easy project. So this is the beginning of a sunny baby blanket. The pattern actually calls for a slightly looser gauge, I think, but I decided to use this gauge and modify the stitch count a little, and I also want to knit it a little bit longer. So I have folded it double now, but it's actually longer, but I think this way, you know, this way you're not going to see much. So I believe this is going to be cut out of the screen, so I don't know. But it's about 1 meter wide, so 40 inches. That's what I modified the stitch count for, and then it's going to be around 60 inches long. So yeah, I'm using my my higher sharps for this one, because I'm using my 3.5 millimeter needles here, and I'm going to have a quick peek. That's a US size 4, and it's a really easy pattern. So it's garter and stockinette stitch in these kind of funny square shapes. So really easy to memorize the pattern. And it's knitting up quite fast. So I believe I was still on the first skein. No, I finished the first skein yesterday evening, and well, this is all that I have left over from the second skein. They are 50-gram balls. I think I calculated that I would need about 14 skeins So I need to knit to get a lot of my knitting done on this thing, because it just needs to be finished before the wedding. I don't get to see her very often because she lives in Germany and the border with Switzerland. So yeah, it's just quite a bit away from me, and I don't get to go there very often. But the yarn that I'm using is again Annell Malmedy. So here's the little label, and actually the label is the same for the other yarn that I used for the baby socks, but I just can't find it. I probably threw it out or have misplaced it somewhere in the 3 years that I've had that skein. So yeah, so this is colorway number 2540, so 2540. Yeah, and it's a 100% wool yarn, 125 meters, so that would be, I think, something like 135 yards ish, maybe 140 yards per 50 grams. So it's a worsted weight, and yeah, I'm really happy with this yarn. I must say I also like this yarn because I just know that it's going to hold up quite well, because I do have more than one pair of mittens for myself, but in all honesty, I only ever use the one pair that I've knit out of this yarn. So yeah, and I use it a lot, and it's also the only hat that I ever use, but I don't tend to use the hat as often because my hands get cold and I want to be able to use my hands, and I do have hair on my head, which keeps my my head a little warmer as well. So I don't tend to use the hat as often. And the shawl, I also just adore the shawl. It's a color affection shawl. Maybe at some point I will show you, but not today, because I feel this podcast episode is already cram-packed with content. So yeah, so there's been quite a bit of progress on my my new cast on, in fact, on the baby blanket, and there's a fair chance that next week you're not going to see anything else except for this blanket. Well, first of all, because I just need to get this finished before a deadline, but also a very important thing to me that happened this week is that I have signed my contract. So I officially have a job now, and I'm going to start working as a project engineer at a research and development team of a company that is, well, fairly local to me, and yeah, and they are and they make equipment for measuring the quality of beverages. So that's what I'm going to be working on. So quality control for beverage production. I'm not going to share much more details, honestly. At this point, I don't even know very much more of the details. Because of course there's going to be a time in which I need to get familiar with the software and tools and everything that they use. So yeah, I even if I wanted to, I couldn't share much more about that. So yeah, I'm really excited about this job, but I'm going to start on next Monday. So with a 40-hour work week ahead of me, I'm not really sure how much knitting there's going to be. I hope it will still be enough to keep this podcast going, but next week for sure most of the knitting will be done on this blanket, and I know for sure that I will have 1 hour a day in the train to knit from now on, so that's good. There's some knitting time there, but I kind of see it coming that I will be completely exhausted after I get home from work, and that there won't be so much knitting in the evenings anymore. But we will see how those things work out. just a quick mention. So this is a very cram-packed episode. Next week maybe I won't have so much to share with you. We will see. So, but possibly I could tell you some more about how I like my work by then. So this week has been a bit of a crazy week with organizing all the stuff to start working, because I will travel to my work by train, but then I also need a bicycle at both locations, so in my hometown and in the town where I will work. So getting a second bicycle and getting it fixed up, and making sure that everyone knows my new email address and everything. Or actually, not so much my new email address, because I have a private mail account that I have been using for quite some time, but making sure that a lot of things don't go to my student account anymore, because it seemed like the most reliable email address for me at the time, but it's not really nice to have like your water bills or your electricity bills go to an email account that I won't be able to access because I have rolled out of the university by now. So yeah, I need to manage quite a bit of things from there. Also, my bank account had a student discount, which I'm no longer which no longer applies to me. All that kind of stuff just needs to be arranged. And this week I still had some time to get that going. Of course, I'm really excited about having a holiday, but it just doesn't feel like I really had a holiday, because I have been I've been running around like a crazy person getting all those things organized. But yeah, I guess still nowhere near a work week, so who knows how exhausted I will be next week. So yeah, I think that's all that I had to share with you this week, and I believe it's a lot. So hopefully it won't be too much of a contrast with next week. We will see. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. It really means a lot, and I hope to see you again next week. And until then, have a lovely week, and of course feel free to contact me in any way if you'd like to. So bye.